Hi, I'm Claire and this is my slightly belated reading wrap-up for September 2016. I read 6 books in September. First, I read The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is a sequel to last year's The Fifth Season, which won the Hugo Award for Best Novel, and it's also the second book in the Broken Earth series. This is an advanced copy that I got from the publisher Orbit for review, and you will find the review for this book over at my blog. I'll also put a link down below. It took me a while to read this one, and then even longer to formulate my thoughts in a coherent way, to figure out what it was that I wanted to say about it in my review. And what I've come away with is that yes, it is difficult, but it is definitely worthwhile in my opinion to read. It is an extremely brutal book to read. I don't want to give away too much, but the entire plot is around the world crumbling and this apocalypse event happening in real time. And of course the first book opens with one of the main characters, Esun, finding out that her husband has just murdered their youngest child because he's found out that this young, like 3-4-year-old child was a magic user who could sense and move the earth with his mind. And it's also in Esun's point of view, and her point of view is written in second person, so it feels like a direct address, your son is dead. I found Esun's point of view a bit difficult to get into in the first book as well. It was kind of taking me out of the narrative because I was noticing it so much. And it happened again in this book. I'm just not used to second person point of view, even though I think that Jemisin does it really well in terms of the writing. It's still a bit strange, but it's not the only thing that I think she does really well in terms of writing. The story has a lot of depth, and it's just a complicated book, which is great because sometimes I want to read things that are really challenging and things that I'm still going to be thinking about days and days later. Next, I read Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. This was an absolutely fascinating non-fiction book about the black women who worked at NASA during the space race and who helped America put a man on the moon. These are women whose stories we know nothing about, and apparently there were just many women working at NASA during the space race, including an entire department of women of color who worked at NASA during this really fascinating period in American history, and just no one knows about it. You probably know about it the same way that I knew about it, because there's going to be a feature film about these women next year, and the trailer for it looks amazing. As soon as I saw it, I wanted to read the book. I took American History 101 at university. I kind of knew the broad strokes of the period, but it's always very different to have a kind of personal account of what that time was like. I would definitely recommend picking up this book, particularly if you've seen the trailer for the film and you're excited about it, because let's face it, this is a non-fiction book versus like a fictionalized version of the events for the movie, so there is no way that the film is going to be able to cover even half of the stuff in this book, and it's all extremely worth reading. Next, I read The Family Plot by Cherie Priest. This is her latest release. It's a Southern Gothic ghost story. I've already read this and done a review of it on the channel. I will link that in the description box below. You should go and check it out if you're interested, because I have currently got a giveaway ongoing for this. You can win a copy of this beautiful hardback book that I really enjoyed, so you should go check that out right now. Next, I read Hawkeye Volume 1, My Life as a Weapon by Matt Fraction. I recently got a subscription to Marvel Unlimited and then proceeded to not read anything because I didn't really know where to start. My friend Nick brought up this run of Hawkeye and said that I should definitely read that because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not very kind to Hawkeye. I don't really care about MCU Hawkeye at all, so I was a little bit dubious, but I really enjoyed this comic. This comic was pretty much the opposite of an MCU movie insofar as it really focuses on Clint Barton as opposed to Hawkeye. and I quite like that. A lot of the story focuses on the building that Clint lives in, which he purchases from mobsters at the beginning of the story to protect the other tenants. So a lot of it focuses on real life issues, which the Avengers really doesn't, and we also get to see another side to Clint apart from just this dude in black shooting arrows. So altogether, I was pretty happy with this first volume, and I'm definitely planning to continue reading Matt Fraction's run of Hawkeye. And as I was forewarned by everyone all over the internet, yes, I am now in love with Kate Bishop. Please bring her to the MCU now. And the last two things that I read in September were things that I already had on my radar kind of vaguely, but then I heard excellent reviews from the ladies of a Fangirl Happy Hour about those books and immediately bumped them up to the top of my TBR and read them and loved them. Superior by Jessica Lack is an absolutely adorable novella that focuses on the romance between Jamie, who is an intern to Captain Superior, the biggest superhero in the city, and Tad, who is the newest apprentice to the supervillain that keeps fighting Captain Superior. They meet when Jamie is kidnapped by Tad's boss, and there are immediate sparks flying, but Tad is maybe hiding something, and Jamie is maybe trying to be a little too heroic, and things develop from there. I already had this one on my TBR just based on the blurb, but then I was listening to Fangirl Happy Hour, and Renee said, if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you like reading MCU fanfiction, you should definitely read this because it has that kind of vibe and it's very well written. And so I immediately purchased it on my Kindle and read it in an evening. There were a couple points at which it was a bit predictable, but overall it was just delightful. It was sweet, it was earnest, there was a bit more depth to it than I first expected, and as with the best novellas, I would definitely have read a lot more in that universe. And finally, I read Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. This is the first book in the Brooklyn Brujas series, and it is about Alex, whose family are all magical. They're not witches though, they're brujas and brujos. It's this really cool YA story about coming into your powers that is set against a backdrop of Hispanic culture that I knew nothing about. It's an On Voices story, which is also really important. That's partly why I picked it up. The other reason I picked it up is that Anna recommended it on Fangirl Happy Hour because it has a bisexual protagonist who ends up in a relationship with a girl that is a happy relationship. And like Anna was saying, we normally don't want to discuss who the character ends up with at the end of the book because that's the romance arc and you don't want to spoil it. However, there are precious few books that offer a good representation of bisexual characters and precious few books that present a gay or lesbian couple happy at the end of the book. These things are sufficiently important that we want to signal boost them because oftentimes there are people looking for those things in books and not finding them. Overall, I quite enjoyed the story. There were some elements that felt a little bit predictable. When Alex comes into her powers, she is afraid that they might be a bit too much for her, and she tries to stay away from her powers and not use them, and she tries to give them away, and in so doing, she triggers the events of the book. When that happened, it wasn't very surprising, but I don't need everything to be very surprising, and the rest of the book proceeded to be very, very interesting, with Alex having to go to the underworld to save her family. Overall, I would definitely recommend Labyrinth Lost. I really enjoyed reading it, and I know that the author is working on more novels, kind of standalone but in the same universe, that focus on Alex's sisters, so I'm definitely looking forward to those when they come out as well. So that's it. These were the books that I read in September, and those 6 books bring my total for the year to 50 books. Now 50 was the target goal that I had for my Goodreads challenge last year, and this year I doubled it to 100 in order to force myself to read more, and I hit my goal from last year in September, so clearly that worked. I'm definitely not gonna make 100 by December, but I'm quite happy with the progression of that anyway, and I hope I can make 70, 75, something like that. We'll have to see. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of the books that I've talked about or if you want to read them, and let me know if you have any recommendations for stuff I should read based on what I discussed in this video. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check the sidebar right here for more videos, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button for new videos from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.